Clergy invites you to their weekly town hall meeting on Praise AM 1310, 95.1 FM.
And 3, 2, 1.
Well, on this past Sunday, there was a debate in the city of Indianapolis between the Democratic mayoral candidate, who is also the incumbent mayor, Mayor Joe Hogsett, and the Republican candidate for mayor, which is Mr. Jefferson Shreve. And that debate, once again, was held on this past Sunday. And it was at that time that we were privileged to have that brought to us by Radio One, our partners at Radio One, the Indianapolis Recorder, as well as the the African American Coalition. They also participated in that. So they brought that debate to us on this past Sunday. But the question is this. The question is, this debate was brought to us. It was brought specifically to a community, primarily African American, black community, community of color. And my question is, do you feel like they were really speaking to you? Do you feel that while we had some excellent questions that were being raised, do you actually feel that they were answering those questions that were brought to them? And that's both Mayor Hogsett and Jefferson Shreve. Do you feel that the candidates, as they answered those questions on Sunday, do you feel like they answered the questions in a way that made you feel that there would be some type of effort that would be specifically given so that there would be change in the minority community, specifically the African American community, the black community? And for those of you that had an opportunity to listen, as it was played in various different formats, it was on the radio, on the all of the Radio One stations, as well as it was on Facebook Live on the Recorders page, and there were watch parties that were across the city. We participated at Purpose of Life Ministries, where our president of the Concerned Clergy, Pastor David W. Green Sr., where he's the pastor. We hosted a watch party. There was also a watch party there at the Urban League. And then there was another one on the east side of town at the cafe. So there was definitely, I would say, several outlets in order to hear as well as see the debate. The question, once again, though, for those that did have an opportunity to listen in, the question is, do you feel like they were speaking to the issues that are concerning to the black community? Do you feel like the questions as they were being asked in the various different areas, do you feel that they even answered the questions? Do you feel that you were satisfied with what you heard from the candidates as they addressed the various issues and the various questions that were posed to them? So for those of you that may not have had an opportunity to tune in, if I can, help kind of reset the stage, there was a 1-hour debate this past Sunday. I believe it started at 5, was over at 6, and then after that, there was a discussion with a panel that Miss Tina Cosby moderated. And it's in that panel that she had 6 individuals. She had a couple of Democrats, a couple of Republicans, and a couple of undecided voters that were there, nonpartisan voters that were there, independent voters. She had a mix there, and she asked them various questions, and so they had some dialogue after the debate. But once again, the debate itself between Mayor Joe Hogsett and Jefferson Shreve. It was a 1 hour format, and their questions were pretty much already put together. And we had Ashaya Boyd from the Recorder, and we had Cameron Riddle of Radio One, and they were the moderators for the debate. And once again, they had some great questions that could have lent itself to really finding where both of the candidates stood in various areas. But I have to say, over the last 3 days since that, I've had, when, I have been in the community, I've had many of the community members that kind of expressed that they were a little disheartened in some of the responses and the answers. And I'd like to know, where do you stand? Where do you stand? And it's important to ask that question because Election Day is coming up, and it's going to be November the 7th. It's going to be that first Tuesday in November. So we are less than 30 days out. Is your mind made up? Have you decided who you're going to vote for? Whether it be for mayor or the other races that are also part of our municipal elections that are coming up in November. The last day for registration was on yesterday. You can now go on the Indiana Voter website, and you can check your voting status, make sure that you're registered. Once again, it's too late to try to register, but you can do that. You can go and check to make sure that you're registered as well. You can go on the website, and you can pull up your address, and you can get a sample ballot. So you can see your ballot before you vote. Early voting started as well. So now you can early vote. You can early vote downtown at the City County building. I don't have all of those hours here before me, but that's available now. So you can early vote. You can also absentee vote. And then once again, Election Day itself will be Tuesday, November the 7th. And have you made up your mind? Have you decided who it is you're going to vote for? Once again, as you look at and we revisit the debate from this past Sunday, several issues were brought up. Issues such as economics, education, housing was brought up, and of course, public safety. That was brought up as well. And it's with that we have questions for the community, and I'd like to see if we can get answers to. And those questions are: were you satisfied with what you heard from the candidates? And have you made your mind up on who you're going to vote for? Well, we're going to come back in a couple of minutes, and once again, we're going to take your calls on 317-239-1310, and you can also comment in our Facebook feed. But we're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back with you. Once again, 317-239-1310. You're listening to the Concerned Clergy Radio Show on AM 1310 and 95.1 FM, The Light. Welcome back to the Concerned Clergy Radio Show. We had some technical difficulties, but we are back now. Once again, if you're watching on Facebook, so we are streaming on Facebook Live as well. You can comment in our Facebook feed, and you can also call in to the radio station, to our Radio 1 radio station, AM 1310, 95.1 FM The Light. And you can call in. That number is 317-239-1310. I'm Reverend Tony Alexander, and I'm your host for tonight's Concerned Clergy Radio Show. And once again, we've been kind of recapping the mayoral debate that was on this past Sunday, and I've asked a question as we began our show on tonight. Were you satisfied with what you heard from the candidates? Did you hear the candidates speak to the issues that are pertaining to you and the black community? Once again, feel free to call in or comment in our Facebook feed. We do have callers that are holding. Let's go ahead and we'll take Lisa. Lisa, good evening.
Hello, Reverend Alexander. How are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Good. Listen, I did not see the debate, but my mind has been made up since January the 6th. I will never, ever vote for another Republican, especially a Trump supporter. So regardless to what happened that Sunday on the debate, people must not forget January the 6th, must not forget our democracy and how they're still after it and how fragile our democracy is. So, with all of that, no, I didn't see the debate, didn't need to see it. I know I was not going to vote for no Trump supporter.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your phone call, Lisa. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Goodbye.
All right. Goodbye. Let's go ahead and bring in Mike. Mike? Good evening.
Hello and good evening, Reverend Alexander.
How are you?
I am doing fine, sir, and how are you doing?
Doing excellent. So what do you have to say there, Mike?
That's good, and peace and love to Pastor Green.
Amen. Thank you.
Reverend Alexander, I'd like to share with you some things concerning our community in our city. You know, it's a difference between night and day, Reverend Alexander, because we, the Democratic, and when I say we, I'm talking about we as a group of people, as a community. We allow to a two-party system, a Republican system and a Democratic system, okay? And the history of both of them have really never been in our favor, if you stop and think about it, okay? But this is where we are now with our local Democratic system. I'm out here on the Far East Side, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And this community, and God bless everybody, okay? But this community is so diverse. But somehow, there's so many non-voters that came into this country that's over here on the east side that, you know, I've been trying to get potholes filled in front of a park for over 3 or 4 years. And everything just go blank. I call downtown over and over. You know, the street need to be resurfaced. The sad thing about it is, a couple of years ago, they started from Post Road on 36. Then they came up a couple of blocks, resurfaced the street, and stopped. They didn't even carry it out to 38th Street.
So do you feel that, based on at least what you're hearing thus far, and if you had an opportunity to listen in on Sunday, do you feel that what's going on out there at the Far East Side is going to change?
You know what, Pastor Alexander? There's nothing going to change in this city until the citizens of this city realize what's really going on in this city. it's a difference between Martindale Avenue and Andrew J. Brown Avenue. Back in the days when Martindale Avenue was named Martindale, I tell you, black folks was making money out there on that avenue. Look at the avenue now.
Well, things have certainly changed.
What's out there now?
Yep. No, I got you. But I do, Mike, I appreciate it, but I do have to go to our break. So we appreciate.
I know you want to run away from this conversation.
Hold on. I agree with a lot of what you said, so I'm not running. I'm going to break. But thank you so much, Mike. We're going to do just that. We're going to go ahead and go to break. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can call in to the radio station, and that number is 317-239-1310. And you can also you can take your comments and you can post them on Facebook, as we are streaming Facebook Live on my Facebook page, Antonio Tony Alexander, so you can do that also. So once again, we do have to go to our break. Let's go ahead and do that. You're listening to the Concerned Clergy Radio Show on AM 1310 and 95.1 FM The Light. Welcome back to the Concerned Clergy Radio Show. I'm Reverend Tony Alexander, your host for this evening, and we are hoping to have our President David W. Green Sr. come in and join us after his Bible study on tonight. So we are hoping to hear from him. On tonight's show, we have been talking about the mayoral debate that happened on this past Sunday. I've asked a question: do you feel that your concerns were being answered? Do you feel that they were being addressed? Do you feel that as it was specifically put together for the black community, do you feel that the issues of the black community was being addressed? And for our previous caller, Mike, let's be certain. If there's comments I don't agree with, I don't mind sharing how I feel about those comments. However, we do have format, we do have breaks we have to take, so please be cognizant of that as you're making your comments as well. So once again, we do invite you to be part of the conversation. Feel free to call into the radio station. That number is 317-239-1310. And you can also comment on our Facebook page as well, Antonio Tony Alexander, and you can comment in the Facebook feed. So we have Mayhem that's been holding. Mayhem, good evening.
Hey, good evening. Wonderful platform. I like the question you asked. The problem is, like Mike and your last caller, they don't know how to play the system. The system is playing them. Mike rambles a lot. Out east, there's a lot of building going on out there. You just got to work the system. I mean, look who they've been voting for all them years. That's their fault. Try somebody new. Quit trying the same old, same old. Quit letting other people think for you and making you vote for the same person. That's your fault. The problem with this Marion County, we got ignorant voters. They keep on voting for the same old people, so you get the same old results. That what happened Sunday. I really can't blame people to use the system. Look who they got talking for them, and look at the questions, and look. Of course, they're going to take advantage of the so-called community that threw that on, because it wasn't talking to me. I don't know who they was talking to. I mean, the Democratic mayor, hey, he's going to take advantage of them because they don't demand nothing of him. And Shreve, he's nothing but a carbon copy of the mayor. So the black community is being played. But, oh, well, look who, like I said, look who they got talking for them. And look at the callers. They're going off of sound bites, and they've been brainwashed. We have to use the system. Quit letting the system use you. Outside of Marion County, there's them people know how to work the system. Inside of Marion County, it's like a plantation. They can take advantage of black people in Marion County because look who's talking for them. Thank you. Have a good one.
All right. Thank you so much for your phone call, Mayhem. And I'll take a couple of things actually from Mayhem and Mike, the caller we had before our break. Because I actually agreed with, some of the things that Mike did say. And one of those that he said is that we have non-voter participation. He's absolutely right. That has to change. And Mayhem said we have ignorant voters. So I do think both of those statements are true. We have folks that are not engaged in the process. That doesn't make them dumb or stupid. It does make them where they're not knowledgeable in the facts as they are, and to be able to actually understand what some of the platforms that some of the candidates are actually running on. So, when we talk about ignorance, I would say that's it, not being able to understand the issues that certain candidates are running, and then voting for the candidate that really speaks for you, what concerns you and your issues. Another thing that Mayhem said, and I agree with, he made the statement, McCarla Mayhem did, that Shreve seems to be a carbon copy of Hawkshead. And that was one of the notes that I made. One of the notes that I made as I listened to the debate on Sunday, I listened to a lot of things that Mayor Hogsett has either announced that he was going to do, whether it was housing, working with the homeless, things like that. Even when it came to charter schools, they were really on the same page. And the question is, well, what are you getting different out of Shreve? And I think that goes back to our first caller. It goes back to Lisa. And Lisa saying that what she wouldn't want is someone who can be beholden to the ideology that comes with former President Trump. So I think when you look at that, so you have a carbon copy of, if you could say that, a carbon copy of our current mayor, however, with a Trump twist. Hogsett with a Trump twist. Is that what we would get if we did have Jefferson Shreve as our next mayor? I think when we kind of look at the debate as it was, I can't say that I saw or heard anything that stood out that was extremely different. And I would say different enough that would say, boom, that's something that we would want to see in play, or something that the black community needs. Once again, a lot of the things that Mayor Hawks has said, I either have this in play, we're doing this already, even, public safety, when we're talking about body cams, Shreve would say, here is what I would do. And Hawks would say, hey, we already have that in the budget. So it's things such as that. And I didn't see anything that really spoke to what the difference was. Also, so once again, as we think about this debate, and we kind of replay it, recap it, summarize it, revisit it. They did speak on things such as economics, education, public safety, housing. Those were some things they did speak about. Mental health. They did bring that up. But the conversation was a conversation that was geared or should have been directed to the black community. I'm not sure that my ears heard a black agenda. Matter of fact, I did not hear anything that made me think that either one had a black agenda. And there are some that are with the ideology that they don't need a black agenda, that the black community should come up with a black agenda. Well, I don't agree with that, because what I believe, and let's use this debate as an example. The reason you bring them before the black community is because you want to know what they're going to do for the black community. So they should have an agenda for that format. Guess what? If they're going in front of a Jewish community, they're going to have an agenda for the Jewish community. If they're going in front of the business community, they're going to have an agenda for the business community. Why wouldn't we expect the same? They don't just go to other communities and say, well, what do you want? No, they go and say, here's what we're doing. Here's what we're doing that's making your community, your interest, the things that you are a stakeholder in. Here's what I'm going to do. In the case of Mayor Hogsett, he can say, here's what I did. Jefferson Shreve, he spoke about being on the city county council. I don't recall him saying, here's what I did as a councilman. I might have missed that. I might have been taking some notes and missed that. Somebody feel free to correct me. But I don't recall him saying, the city county councilor, here's what I did for the black community. Here's what I did that made a difference. Here's something that I championed. Matter of fact, he could have said, here's something I championed, and it was voted down. But he could have said, here's something I stood for then, and as mayor, here's what I will stand for next. I will try to bring that back. Or here's what I did then, and I want to enhance it. Or, yeah, I didn't hear any of that. I didn't hear anything regarding, okay, here is his record as someone who is put in a position to represent constituents. I didn't hear that. When we think about, and there's some of these I do want to dive into, and I'll do it real quickly before our next break here. When we look at the economics, while we talked about, like black businesses, I can't say I heard of any real successes from a black business standpoint from Mayor Hogsett, or what I'm going to do different from Shreve. When we talked about the education, one of the things I made note of was that both of their answers in regards to charter schools was, hey, it's going good and we're going to keep it going. And we're going to speak more about that specific topic, the charter school topic, when we come back. When we talk about, things such as public safety, one of the notes I made was that Mayor Hogsett, he championed that one of the things that he is proud of for what he has done was a community justice campus. Really? That's what you're proud of? He did mention some reduced crime numbers, but those numbers in many cases are still being scrutinized because many of folks feel that what they're given is not actual numbers and there's not transparency with those particular numbers. But those are some things that I made note of. Once again, I'm not sure that I can say that there was anything that really spoke to the black community. And after that was over, it's like, here's what he, either one of the candidates, is going to do for the black community. What are your thoughts? Is your mind made up? Was there anything there that you did hear that made you feel that, okay, either this mayor or this candidate has my interest? We're getting ready to go to our second commercial break. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can call into the radio station. That number is 317-239-1310. You can also comment in our Facebook feed. Feel free to do that. But once again, we invite you to be part of this conversation as we recap the mayoral debate from this past Sunday. Call into the radio station, 317-239-1310. You're listening to the Concerned Clergy Radio Show on AM 1310 and 95.1 FM, The Light. How you doing, Pastor?
I'm doing good.
All right. Gotcha. All right. We'll be getting started here shortly. Welcome back to the Concerned Clergy Radio Show. I'm Reverend Tony Alexander, and I'm joined now by the president of the Concerned Clergy, Pastor David W. Green Sr. How you doing, Pastor?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Reverend Alexander?
Hey, I'm doing good. Glad you could join us on this evening. And we've been talking about the debate on this past Sunday, Pastor Green, and I posed a question out on Facebook if the community felt that the debate actually spoke to their needs, if the candidate spoke to the needs of the black community or even people specifically. And so that's kind of what we've been talking about as I kind of reset just before our break, Pastor. I shared some of the things that I made note of as they talked about the various subjects. When they talked about economics, what I noticed is that they really didn't highlight any major successes in the area of black businesses. I didn't hear that. When they talked about education, they both pretty much said, hey, as far as charter schools are concerned, we can just go with the status quo, not even actually addressing the number of charter failures that we've had. When they talked about public safety, I noted that The highlight for Mayor Hogsett seemed to be the community justice campus, and that was what he highlighted as what he thought that something he did in his tenure for public safety. So it's things such as that I noted, and I'm not sure that either one of them really spoke to the black community or to the issues that really concern the black community at all.
Well, I definitely would concur with you and your assessment there. I'm hoping that the listeners that heard the debate, I'd love to hear what they thought, because I definitely feel like we didn't hear enough about what you plan to do for the black community or in the black community. Even with Mayor Hogsett's grocery store, etc. He didn't say he was going to repeat it. He didn't say that, access to fresh fruits and vegetables was something he would extend. He merely pointed to it that it existed. He took that as a victory lap. And your words around economics here, he talked about the Goodwill Project that is done by minorities. He didn't say black. So we must understand that minorities means women, Latino, could mean veterans too. So that doesn't necessarily equate to black. So we have to be very astute with language and not make assumptions and look at some of these projects. And then, because in the big picture is billions of dollars got spent over the last 4 to 7 years. Billions. Black people didn't get $1 billion. Black businesses didn't get big. And so we need to see an increase in dollars spent with black businesses. This has to be intentional. That's what equity looks like. Otherwise, we're going to fall into this equality thing that includes some of everybody, and black people begin left out.
Well, what we didn't hear? We didn't hear, this company has now risen up from, being a small company and is now, doing this, and you're seeing it in the community. You didn't see or hear anything from the perspective of our numbers were, this percentage, and now we've grew them, exponentially. We didn't hear any of that. So that was certainly missing there on the economic side.
Yeah, and let me be clear, because I'm just talking about the things for black people. And Shreves didn't present a plan either, saying that he had some idea or things he would do to grow black businesses or see duplications of things that he would have considered that would have worked. So I don't want somebody to read into it that I'm on one party or the other side. I'm saying across the board, black people, Democrat or Republican, if you take out the fact that people who's already receiving money for a different project or have motivation, you didn't hear things that say, okay, black community, this is what's happened. This is either has happened, is happening, or will happen. Because I get that Shreve was not the mayor. He's a candidate for the mayor, but he didn't present a plan to saying, here's what I'm going to do.
And you certainly did not hear that whatsoever. And, what some folks don't realize is while, we do look at, and we definitely should, the record of Mayor Hogsett, Shreve actually has a record as well. I mean, he does have something you can go back and look at and say, what did you do when you were on the council? What was it that you implemented? What were the things that you championed for the black community? And I certainly didn't hear any of that. And I said earlier tonight, I may have missed it because I was making notes. but I don't recall hearing him, really do anything where he put any spotlight on here's what I did when I had that seat, and here's what I'm going to do, or here's what I'm going to continue now that I'm, looking at the mayor's seat.
No, you didn't miss anything because that wasn't there. I mean, I think both candidates are focused on public safety and getting more police officers. So in that regard, there's very little difference between the two. You know, but to me, the issues are economics, education, housing. Those things will impact public safety. If you fail to address housing, you fail to address livable wages and economics, you fail to address education, you will have a public safety issue. You will not be able to hire enough police officers.
And well, we see that was even noted in the debate. Pretty much the I'll say the neutrality of as many as you've gained, you've lost. Over the last 8 years. And something else I do want to go back to is on the education side. We talked about the charters. We just did a forum, Pastor Green, back in May, in which one of the things that I presented as part of that meeting was the number of charter schools that have closed over the last 20 years. In that 17, there were 31 at that time. That's before the last two we just had over the last month or so. At that time, there was 31. 17 of those were the mayor charters. And I went back and looked at it. Probably, I'd say almost half were over the last 8 years.
Right. They have. I mean, and to not consider a moratorium to me is an egregious act of not considering the data. In a land where we always consider the data, we look at this and see schools that are failing, schools are closing, many which close in the middle of the school year. Now we don't want to consider the data to say, hold it, let's freeze this until we figure out what's going on. That's not an option. I don't see how that makes sense. But both candidates are saying we're moving ahead with charter schools.
And there was nothing there that even said from an academic performance standpoint, here's why. I mean,
exactly.
Nothing there to justify it whatsoever. But it was full steam ahead. I mean, they were both clear. I mean, in that message, and that's something that was brought up, Pastor, before you got on. We had several callers on the front end, and they mentioned the fact that we have either non-voter participation, where our voters are ignorant of the facts, and then also that they were kind of a carbon copy. A lot of things that Hogsett said he was either doing now, had done. Shreve is saying that was pretty much his idea as well. There was nothing there where he was really separating himself to say, here's what I'm going to do different.
There's very little of that. I think that's going to make the election very intriguing because it's what is the difference? And but as a black people, we need to be concerned because we didn't hear what's coming to our community to address some of our that are clear factors in terms of our children's education academics. So how does continuing to do what we're doing help our students that are behind and improve our academic performance? I don't see how that works, how that happens. And there's no intentionality about it. They use the term choice, which I'm all for people having choices. But I want to have choices between good choices. Not saying, oh, you got these three bad choices and I pick one. That ain't choice to me. Choice to me is when you got a good choice for your son or daughter. And we're pushing a lot of people where they don't have a good choice. They're just picking between bad items.
Well, you go from, okay, you sell it on choice, but now we got two charter schools that are closing. What choice do they really have now when they got to go select schools? The quote unquote choice that you sold them on is more limited now than it would have been if you just let them go to, either the community school or just have something where there's a pipeline to schools where you know where you're going. They're really upsetting the apple cart here in education here in Indiana, period, especially here in Marion County.
Well, Alexander, we have to be honest. They have to go to wherever they can get their kid in school at, regardless of what that school is and where that school rates at. If they will take you, that's where you have to go.
Yeah.
At least for this school year.
And it's, and you think about the disruption, I mean, those are some major, that's a major item for a family when you talk about disruption, to a child's education, because it's not just their education that gets disrupted. I always say when you look at the social aspect, which lends itself to, the mental health piece of the student, all that gets affected. When you have that change.
And I always want to say, I know you do the same, what happens to these children academically? That you pull them out, school closed, they jump in another school system, they got to go to a whole different environment. What happens to those children academically?
And is there anything that even tracks it? Is there anything that, tracks what's happening? I think.
Or do we not want to know that, Romain?
I was just getting ready to say that would be wow. I mean, because the numbers are already, actually they are horrible across the board when you really look at even all the standardized, testing scores, all that. Everything's horrible right now. And then if you were to pull out, that group. Just imagine. You can't say there's no way you could say, well, it's going to be better.
No.
Yeah, graduation.
You're upsetting
this
young. Yeah, you're upsetting these children. They change of friends, change of books, change of teachers, change of everything, and you want them to adapt on the fly and keep up academically. And keep in mind, many of them are already behind due to COVID and pre-COVID. You can't say that's good or healthy for children. Nowhere. Science is going to tell you, no, don't do that.
Well, that should have been
We're
a huge
trying to
topic.
say it's okay.
Yeah, that should have been a topic right there. How are we going to catch all of them that are behind still? What's that plan?
Right. I would like to have seen the moderators operated backwards. Rather than spend 30 minutes on public safety, given we've seen the candidates' commercials on TV, you know how they're going to handle public safety. But have the candidates interact with economics, housing, education, and spend more time there. But I wasn't the moderator, so.
Well, I mean, an hour is a limited time, but they spend an awful lot of time on that subject for sure. And like you said, that's pretty much the only thing we've heard about throughout the campaign season. So that was kind of a given for sure. And, what I did not hear was when we look at the transit failures that we're looking at here. All the things that's going on, with Indigo, how, that has been a total, I'll say it's been a total mess for the city. I know you can't just stop it, but there should have been some conversation around how it has disrupted the communities. And it's disrupted, so far, a lot of black communities. That's been an effect on those black businesses when we talk about the economics and the neighborhoods themselves.
Looking back, it should have been a success story. Because it's the place where you could have talked about black businesses, how we're able to help black communities. The fact that there's no discussion of it that nobody talks about it as a success story, or they plan to make it a success story. That silence speaks volumes, Rem Alexander, for the very things you said. That we building the Purple Line right through the heart of the black community. And many small businesses went out of business. And we can't point to a black business that grew as a result of it,
No.
a trucking company or whatever. All of those things are egregious mistakes and wrong and bad for the black community. Because there should be success stories in that. It was built right through the black neighborhood. The fact that we don't hear that
Like you said, that speaks volumes.
speaks volumes.
Well, Pastor, what do you, I know they're going to have more debates. I guess, what do you hope? I mean, because here's I guess what I struggle with is, I think now, no matter who the moderator is, they're going to have the canned questions, and we're just going to hear the same thing repeated. I mean, what do you what do you think is going to take for, I would say, the candidates to really understand that what we're hearing is not doing anything to move the needle? It's definitely not doing anything to bring voters out. It's not doing anything to raise that percentage. And once again, we could be at a point, we could be where it was Peterson versus Ballard, and we could have that all over again.
Well, certainly that's a fear. I mean, Ballard didn't win because people were so much pro Ballard. They were just anti Peterson at the time. I think we're in a potential similar situation. What do you do? What's going to motivate you to go vote? I mean, we still got a couple of weeks. You hope the candidates begin to talk about something other than public safety, because I know everybody wants to hire more police. I got you. I want to know how you're going to address the issues that lead to the public safety crisis, because we do have a housing crisis. We do have an education crisis. We do have an economic crisis. Black people make up nearly 30% of the city.
Mm-hmm.
You got to help lift that group up to lift the city up.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want it just to be a drag on the city. That's not going to help the city. So you have to do some things that are clearly intentional.
Absolutely. Well, we're at the top of our hour. We certainly want to remind everyone you can early vote now, so you can do that. Make sure that you do vote. We have to get those numbers up. Early vote, absentee vote, Tuesday, November the 7th vote. You can vote for not only the mayor, but your city county councilor as well. So definitely look at your ballot. We talked about that on the front end. Know who you're voting for before you do that. Understand what they're standing for. And specifically, are they standing for you? So we invite you to come and join us next Wednesday. And we will just ask that you be blessed.